In the 9th year of Xerxes, king of kings, sovereign of an empire spanning from the Aegean Sea to the fringes of India, a girl named Amestris marked her 13th birthday in the shadowed seclusion of the women's quarters at Persepolis. She was draped in silk dyed with Tyrian purple, the hue of royalty alone, adorned with golden bands encircling her wrists and ankles. Her raven hair, woven into intricate braids by deft palace attendants, gleamed with pearls harvested from the Persian Gulf. By every outward measure, she embodied the pinnacle of privilege, a princess of the world's mightiest realm, daughter to the great king himself, enveloped in luxuries that mortal eyes could scarcely fathom. Yet Amestris did not celebrate. She perched upon silken cushions in her chamber, her small hands quivering in her lap as she battled shallow breaths. Her mother, one of Xerxes's lesser queens, applied cosmetics with the meticulous rite of a priestess preparing a sacrifice rather than a child for adornment. Kohl rimmed her eyes, elongating them into orbs of feigned allure, rouge bloomed on her cheeks and lips, mimicking the flush of vitality and eagerness she could not feel. Perfumed oils, thick and oppressive with jasmine and myrrh, anointed her neck and wrists, turning her stomach to nausea. The queen labored in heavy silence, her own fingers betraying faint tremors, her features schooled into the impassive mask that palace women donned like armor against forbidden sentiments. When the ritual ended, the mother withdrew, her gaze devouring Amestris's transformed visage as if etching it into eternity's stone. Then, in a voice scarcely louder than a sigh, each syllable forged through gritted teeth, she murmured, "Tonight, your father will call for you. You will go to his chambers. You will yield to whatever he demands. You will betray no fear, no defiance, no sentiment save profound gratitude for his favor. Do you comprehend?" Amestris nodded, though comprehension eluded her, her flesh recoiled from an encroaching dread her mind could not yet name. Raised amid the palace's gilded veils, she had glimpsed the harem's veiled truths, the women who existed as vessels for her father's whims. But she was his daughter. Surely that sanctified her, shielding her from the fates of concubines and slaves. Surely he beheld her as the innocent bloom she was, not chattel ripe for harvest. Her mother's eyes caught the bewilderment fracturing into terror on the girl's face, and for an instant, her composure splintered, a raw flicker of anguish, before stealing once more. "You are the king's blood," she intoned, her tone leached to desolation. "But you are his possession. Your flesh, your breath, your very essence, he owns them all. Your role is his to decree. He birthed you into this world, he may wield you as he wills. Embrace this truth, child, if you would endure the storm ahead." Before Amestris could summon the perilous questions clawing at her throat, the chamber door swung open. A eunuch entered, one of the elder guardians she had known since infancy, who once bore festival trinkets with avuncular warmth. Now, his gaze was a void, no kindness, no reminiscence, merely the cold appraisal of an appraiser sizing livestock for the block. "The king of kings summons his daughter, Amestris," he intoned in his reedy timbre, devoid of inflection. "She attends at once. Her mother remains. She speaks only if addressed. She obeys without pause or query. These edicts are iron." Amestris rose on limbs that felt severed from her will, stealing a final glance at her mother, who averted her eyes, impotent to shield or solace, resigned to witness her daughter's consignment to the abyss. The eunuch inclined his head toward the portal, and Amestris trailed him, for refusal was a heresy etched from her bones by cradle hymns of fealty. A fragment of her spirit clung to delusion, praying her mother's augury a misheard echo. But no delusion could veil the night's reality. In her father's opulent sanctum, what Xerxes wrought upon his 13-year-old progeny, acts he framed as assertions of unassailable dominion and celestial mandate, seared into her silence forever. She would never utter it aloud, not in whispers to lovers or confessions to gods. Decades hence, as an elder exiled to some forsaken empire fringe, nightmares would claw her from slumber, replaying that inaugural violation and the shadowed sequels that scarred her soul. Yet before unveiling the fuller atrocity, the methodical desecration of his daughters as playthings and pawns, a custom neither veiled nor aberrant in an empire that deified its tyrants. I must illuminate Xerxes himself, his ascent, his essence, and the imperial machinery that rendered such depravities not profane, but inevitable. This saga transcends antiquity's dust, it probes the rot of unchecked sovereignty, how civilizations sanctify the profane when it bolsters the exalted, how kinship dissolves beneath power's heel. No lone fiend, but a forge that minted deities from despots. If this tale stirs you, unsettles, enlightens, linger with me. Share in the comments your fragments of Xerxean lore, I vow the revelations ahead will eclipse them. Now, rewind to his genesis, and the cultural crucible that birthed these shadows. Xerxes entered the world in 519 BCE, progeny of Darius the Great and Atossa, daughter of empire founder Cyrus himself. His lineage was divinity distilled, heir presumptive to a colossus dwarfing all prior realms. Yet primogeniture held no Persian sway, thrones fell to he who seized heaven's nod and earth's fealty. Darius, architect of conquest and order, had woven satrapies into a tapestry of roads, relays, uniform coin, and edicts binding myriads across continents. He quelled revolts, annexed frontiers, reared Persepolis as power's monolith, a labyrinth of marble and lapis proclaiming Persian transcendence. But Marathon's 490 BCE rout by Greek phalanxes, a gnat's sting upon Leviathan hide, stained his aura. Did gods truly anoint a king humbled by fractious Hellenes? Upon Darius's 486 BCE pyre, Xerxes vied with elder half-siblings amid whispers of celestial disfavor. Atossa's Cyrus tether tipped scales, but shadows cloaked the fray, rivals vanished in accidents or judgments orchestrated by Xerxes's coterie to carve his unchallenged path. Crowned, he marshaled vengeance, a Greek odyssey to salve paternal wounds and etch his supremacy. For years toil birthed antiquity's titan host, Hellespont bridges ferrying legions from Asia's cradle to Europe's maw, supply veins pulsing for hordes. In his 20s zenith, virile, assured, haloed by Ahura Mazda's grace, Xerxes inherited Darius's harem, hundreds of women, blooms plucked from conquests, tribute, or noble supplicants. By 480 BCE's launch, his own seraglio swelled past 600, Greek tallies, likely inflated, a garden of subjugation. Yet Xerxes's appetites transcended imports. As daughters flowered, he summoned them, treating progeny as chattel, their maidenhood's forfeit to his scepter. This paternal claim was no Xerxean aberration but a thread in Persian royal weave, amplified by his zeal. Greek chroniclers, Herodotus foremost, gleaning from Persian tongues and Ionian intermediaries, scribed it with revulsion, branding it oriental excess. To the court? Prerogative divine. To fathom this, peer into Persian ethos, kings traced to Ahura Mazda, wise lord of Zoroastrian flame. Royal ichor pulsed with ethereal fire, demanding preservation through endogamy, sibling unions, even parental, to distill purity undiluted. Egypt's pharaonic kinships echoed here, but Persia theologized it as duty, sires wedding daughters to forge heirs of unalloyed godhead. Piety cloaked lust, absolutism devoured taboo. The king was no mere patriarch but avatar, family ties mere illusions before his throne. By Xerxes's prime, this right spanned generations, court murmurs frank as harvest yields. For his daughters, perhaps a score who outlived cradle perils, the nursery was perdition veiled in velvet. Persepolis's gynecium cradled them, tutors drilled cuneiform and lyre, domestics instilled regal poise. Finest linens, spiced viands, safeguards from empire's toil. Yet they beheld sisters' exodus at menarche, spirited to paternal lairs, resurfacing hollow-eyed, souls fractured like flawed alabaster. Innocence's husk sloughed, silence sealed lips. Younger eyes tallied the toll, divining their cue without decree. Mothers varied, some schooled stoicism, dosing soporifics or dissociation lore, others mute, bartering denial for delay. All knew the script. Initiation's liturgy was unyielding. Servants scoured flesh to luminescence, denuded it of down, slathered salves evoking ripeness. Tresses coiffed to sire's fancy, paints aged the child to courtesan, garb teased revelation. Eunuchs ferried her through torchlit vaults to the king's domain, girlhood's knell tolling. Encounters ebbed with caprice, some daughters endured serial summons, woven into his rhoda-like chattel on lease, others graced once, discarded for fresher fruit. Uniform? Solitude's siege, a pubescent alone with omnipotence incarnate, her sire's gaze appraising not kinship but commodity. Taboos evaporated, divinity absolved. Consider our taint, ensnared in scandal's glare. At 15 or so, she kindled not her father's but Uncle Mazis's eye, a satrap wed to Xerxes' sibling. Their dalliance, affection or ardor, breached the edict, royal flesh was paternal domain till bartered. Discovery ignited fury untempered by blood. Xerxes spared our taint direct lash, lest he concede her volition, eroding ownership's myth. Instead, Mazis's queen, Xerxes' own sister, endured mutilation's poetry, breasts flayed, nose and ears sheared, tongue excised, a canvas of retribution, broadcast to cow interlopers. Our taint? Evaporated from annals, slain, sequestered, or shunted to obscurity. Kinship? A filament snapped by crown's whim. Transgressors' web snared women as proxies, outliers simply, ceased. Greece's saga escalated this calculus, transmuting daughters to campaign currency. Xerxes' 480 BCE armada, millions by boast, 200,000 by reckoning, devoured logistics, morale a fragile thread amid polyglot ranks. His cortege trailed, select harem jewels, wagons veiling princesses in eunuch-shielded splendor. Officially, regal ease amid war, covertly, incentives. Triumphs earned nuptials, a commander's fealty sealed by royal bride, elevating bloodlines, tethering ambition to throne. For daughters? Exile from paternal bed to strangers, elders twice their span, prize winners viewing them as spoils, sires to heirs of diluted divinity. No veto, only mandated mirth at utility. Witness another Amestris, names recurred like tides 14, gifted to General Megabizos for valor. Amid campaign hiatus, spectacle unfolded, bridal pomp parading her before legions, emblem of fealty's fruit, then consigned to a man thrice her senior, met in perfunctory nods. She voyaged as consort, birthed his line, thrived in straitened splendor. Endurance, ecstasy? A myth. She was freight, dispatched for tactical yield, her desires uncharted seas. Greece repulsed the tide. Thermopylae's defiant gorge, Athens' pyre-lit sack, victory's Pyrrhic. Salamis' waves and Plataea's fields shattered the host, Xerxes slunk eastward, laurels withering. Humiliation gnawed, how could Mazda's vessel falter gainst Hellenic rabble? Paranoia bloomed, court became Colosseum. Harem, that unresisting realm, absorbed the lash, daughters drilled as dominions reclaimed. Post-exile summons intensified, neophytes blooded swifter, rituals rawer. Whispers courted challenge, who dared impeach the god-king's hearth? Deeper depravity beckoned via Amestris Redex, this 112, pawn in paranoia's chess. Artabanus, bodyguard chief, gripped lethal sway, palace civ, blades wielder. To yoke him irrevocably, Xerxes proffered matrimony, the girl, gravid with his seed from months' covert congress. Wed in pomp, her swell broadcast, Artabanus inherited a half-sib's son as heir, thraldom tripled, son-in-law, foster-father, silenced accomplice. Betrayal? Revelatory ruin. For Amestris, gestation's grotesquerie, nuptials to a gaze laced with resentment, lifelong mendacity veiling her boy's truth. Sire's stratagem, fealty forged in shame, daughter's doom, a vessel, voided of self. Xerxes' 465 BCE blade end, slain by Artabanus's cabal, unleashed fratricide's gale. Artaxerxes I, a junior scion, clawed the diadem, purging kin. Sisters, now matrons, some brood-bearing, embodied peril, wed to potentates, their issue rival seed. Cull was clinical, executions for suspect spouses' brides, coerced divorces, rebinding to loyalists, exiles to hinterlands, assets seized. Survivor toll? Betrayal's toll, husbands forsaken, progeny sacrificed for fraternal grace. Victimhood's echo, sires' leavings, now siblings' levers. Our inaugural Amestris endured, wed at 25 to frontier lord Megabyzos, namesake kin, for border fealty. Years post-sire's bed, she stewarded his domain, swelled his line, yet wove clandestine webs with purge-scarred royals, solidarity's frail lattice amid eunuch eyes. Artaxerxes, scenting autonomy's spark, dismantled it, progeny palace-bound for indoctrination, missives rifled, guards leashed her steps, allies isolated seriatim. The web unraveled, Amestris withered, meals forsaken, visage gaunt, spirit unmoored. At 33, illness claimed her, trauma's quiet venom, unremarked in ledgers, her brood schooled to mute grief lest fealty falter. Epitaph? None. A cipher expended. Such arcs defined Xerxes's get, foreknowledge's forge, violation's brand, utility's chain, isolation's sepulchre, visceral or veiled, demise devoured. Society's murmur? Zoroastrian divines equivocated, purity's creed clashed with rectitude's call, sermons veiled barbs at boundary breakers. Nobles fretted privately, if thrones devoured own blood, whose hearth secure? Greeks howled overt, Herodotus's histories a Jeremiad gainst tyranny's warp, tales for Athenian hearths warning of hubris's harvest. Biased? Verily. Illuminating? Undeniably. Xerxes's template endured, successors aped, daughters doled as dynastic glue. Yet rot metastasized, trust's corpse birthed bloodier accessions, paranoia a courtly plague. By Alexander's 330 BCE scythe, Darius III's web frayed from within, kin a viper's nest, fealty fiction. Conquerors unearthed scrolls of incestuous edicts, brides as bribes, portents of self-devouring might. Return, then, to that chamber's threshold, Amestris, threshold's lamb, schooled in sacred rite yet reaping profane wound. Xerxes cloaked conquest in Mazda's mantle, bloodline's vigil, godhead's due, yet inflicted profane rupture, trust's crucifixion, autonomy's grave. Daughters splintered, some catatonic husks, others adrift in dissociation's fog, a few armored in fatalism, recasting rape as reverence. All bore indelible wheels, trauma's legacy seeding cycles of fracture, rippling to Alexander's dawn. Across millennia, Xerxes indicts, context cloaks, yet cruelty endures. Persian divergence, divine sires, endogamous zeal, mitigates not misery's math. Modern lens beholds complex wounds, bonds severed, worth effaced, despair's dominion. Culture's veil rends not the victim's verity, girls, gutted by guardians, bereft of recourse. Wrong? Unequivocal. Harmful? Irrefutable. Daughters, Amestris, are taint, their unnamed kin, warrant witness, not regnal asterisks, but souls scourged, striving amid snares. What stirs in you? Does antiquity absolve, or amplify outrage? Agency's ghost in totalitarianism's tomb? Recall them amid Persepolis's ghosts, columns clawing skies, reliefs of tributes tied, unseen chambers where power's pulse quickened unchecked. These annals, pieced from shards, testify, sovereignty sans scruple devours all. Not quaint relic, but warning writ in blood, echoing wherever elites enthrone exception, victims voiceless. Ponder, discourse below. If this unveils power's underbelly, history's horrors as humanity's mirror, share it. We delve onward, unblinking, into antiquity's gloam.